and thank you for joining us here on Tech24. I'm Rebecca Bowring. Coming up in the programme, rest in peace, Steve Jobs. Social networks have been deluged with tributes to the Apple co-founder. Jobs died in California, aged 56. We look at his successes and his controversies. And in part two, the Steve Jobs legacy, why Apple products break the mould, and the entrepreneurs in emerging markets following in his footsteps. He's been likened to Einstein, to Edison, and even to Leonardo da Vinci. Steve Jobs, the iconic co-founder of Apple, passed away this week following a long battle with pancreatic cancer. The news unleashed a wave of internet eulogies. Apple stores around the world became makeshift memorials. I went out in Paris with my iPhone to meet some of the fans saying goodbye.
I think it showed the earth that how one mind can change technological evolution, and he's a great inventor and a self-made man, and he deserves respect.
A great innovator and intelligent man that knows technology and also knows business.
He completely revolutionised the way we buy music, watch films, use a phone. All of it.
Eric Orlando, France 24's digital platforms editor, joins me in the studio. Eric, we saw an outpouring of emotion that was akin to that for the death of Lady Diana, also for Michael Jackson. What is it about Steve Jobs that inspires this adulation?
He created amazing products that really touch people, and people always remember their first kind of Apple or Mac experience. It's, me was during, high school. I wrote my first high school paper on the Apple IIe, and then, I had that Apple iMac, that blue iMac, and then you remember those stages of your life because these were great products that really touched you. It's very difficult for people who are not Mac users, who are not Apple users, to connect with this. And that's where you see a lot of the haters coming in and saying, I don't get what people are talking about. This doesn't make sense to me. This is just a product. People will say it's just hype or it's just marketing. Of course, marketing was amazing, but at the same time, it went deeper than that, and that's why you're seeing these very emotional connections.
Certainly not many of those haters on our Facebook page. We've got some tributes here from fans on the Tech24 page. Alfonso Conda says, it's sad to lose a great man who's made people's lives easier with technology. Dmitry Lerchovic, he will be missed. He was part of the 20th century tech revolution. And Mulenge Chinyimba, he says he's not an Apple fan, but well done, Jobs, from zero to hero. So no exaggeration that he really did change people's lives. But where does Apple go from here? What kind of markets can it expand into? What challenges lie ahead?
Well, it's got two very big challenges. One, it has to hold on to the markets that it already has. And in the iPhone market, that's going to be increasingly difficult with the competition coming from Android now. The Android marketplace is much larger and growing much faster than the Apple marketplace in that sense. And also the usage numbers are going up much faster in the Android world. That said, remember, Apple has never wanted to be the 80% market share company. It's always been happy in those single small digit market share. And there's much more profitability there. It also gives it much more control. It doesn't have that pressure to compromise the quality. So in the one sense, they're going to have to hold on to what they've got. The new challenges, television is going to be the big one that's sitting out there. Apple has not done very much in the TV space. It is a market that's ripe for disruption. Apple's already taken on the music industry, the telephone industry, the computer industry, so many different spaces, and it's created new ones with applications and with tablets. Television is going to be the big one out there to see if Apple can actually do something there.
What about the dark side, though, of Jobs' achievements? He wasn't a Mother Teresa kind of character, was he? He
was not a Mother Teresa kind of character. In fact, he was really not a very pleasant man from what people say. And all his biographies say he was really a tyrant. And he was a very difficult person to work with. That's often the qualities of people like this. On the one hand, he created amazing products. On the other hand, he was, well, frankly, a jerk as a person.
And what about the difficulties that Apple ran into in Asia?
Well, this is unique to a lot of manufacturing companies. So anytime you make something, in fact, on the back of the iPhone, it says designed in California, assembled in China. A lot of manufacturing companies run into problems in China and in other developing countries. This is not uniquely an Apple problem.
Thanks very much for that, Eric. Stay with us. We'll be talking more about Steve Jobs' legacy in part two. So Steve Jobs' legacy lives on in the technology he pioneered. Remind us, Eric, about some of the essential qualities, the special qualities of Apple products.
Well, let me show you just one example of it. This is the iPhone 4, the one, not the 4S, the 4. And you can see the glass backing. And this was one of Jobs' insistence, that he wanted a glass, shiny back. This is, of course, nothing like anything else that we see in the telephone industry. It's not practical. Look. There's a thumbprint that's there, but it's just aesthetically beautiful.
It's just gorgeous, isn't it?
It's just gorgeous. And these, again, were pieces of art for him. These were pieces of design. And this is one of the examples. Also, just the rounded curves, the way you've got the metallic band. Of course, this is where the antenna is, and they had those antenna problems in this iPhone 4. But at the same time, the aesthetics mattered enormously to him, and the best example of that is something like this glass background.
Now, before we talk about the innovators of tomorrow, which I'll come on to in a moment, a quick question about the iPhone 4S, which you mentioned. It was launched last week. To a lot of disappointment, actually, because many people were expecting the iPhone 5.
Apple will never be able to live up to the expectations, and it doesn't try to in many senses. So the iPhone 4S came out, everybody wanted an iPhone 5, but remember that hardware for Apple has never been the leader. It's always been the software. So iOS 5 comes out this week. That is really where a lot of the innovation is going to happen, is in the software side, this new operating system for all its iOS devices.
But it certainly doesn't make new for new's sake, we could say. Now, Jobs' passing came within hours of India making an announcement that it was going to be selling the Akash, or Sky, the cheapest tablet computer in the world, to students for just $35, which is pretty amazing. What kind of impact did Jobs have in emerging markets where maybe some people were frozen out, not able to buy his technology because it's too expensive?
Well, it's really one of the myths that says that only people in developed, advanced markets are kind of benefiting from the influence of Steve Jobs, when in fact there are Apple stores now all over China, there are Apple stores in Egypt, there are Apple stores in lots of emerging markets. Still a very expensive product that only the elites can afford, but the influence is extending to the Akash, it's extending to these other products like the Android products, that's now being able to trickle down all the way to the $25, $35 price point for devices. That is an amazing, amazing legacy. And
his influence, it seems, is also trickling into Africa. We can talk about another entrepreneur now who could have been inspired by Jobs. I don't know if it's the case, but he's 25 years old, Veron Mankou. He's the brain behind the Way-C, and it's the first tablet to be pioneered in Congo, Brazzaville. Let's take a listen to what he has to say.
The company that I created in 2009 has just unveiled the first touchscreen tablet conceived in Africa. With it, we hope to give more people internet access via lower-cost terminal.
It's pretty groundbreaking stuff, Eric.
He wouldn't be doing this if Steve Jobs had not created the iPad. And frankly, at the end of the day, that is going to be Jobs' legacy.
So it's coming out next week, the Way-C. It's $300 assembled in China, and really is the first of its kind. Many thanks for speaking to us today, Eric Olander. Thank you to you for watching this edition of Tech24. Join the conversation on our Facebook page. The details are appearing on your screen right now, and you, of course, can find out more about the show and what we do here on my blog. Now, we end this programme with one of the many fitting tributes that popped up on the internet to Steve Jobs. Of course, this one is by Cult of Mac TV. You can see it on YouTube, and it uses the script from a 1997 Apple television advert, which is narrated by Jobs and which seems to sum him up perfectly. Bye-bye.
Things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough